Usha Vance has finally reached her breaking point. After weeks of watching headlines, viral clips, and growing speculation, she's decided to distance herself from Erika Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk. And according to new information shared by commentator Candace Owens, there's a reason this decision happened now. For weeks, the internet has been buzzing about the interactions between JD Vance and Erika Kirk. A single onstage moment at a Turning Point USA event sparked massive conversations online. People shared the clip everywhere, analyzing every frame. What looked like a simple greeting turned into a viral storm of theories and assumptions. But what most people didn't know was that Usha Vance, JD's wife, had been following everything quietly. She observed how the public reacted, how narratives started forming, and how quickly things spiraled. Eventually, she decided she'd had enough. And that's where Candace Owens enters the story. She's been looking into Erika Kirk's actions and choices since Charlie's passing. What she shared recently raised even more questions about what was happening behind the scenes. In today's video, we're going to break down exactly what Candace revealed, why Usha Vance drew a clear line, and the strategic steps Erika has taken that most people haven't noticed yet. By the end, you might see this entire situation very differently. Before we continue, a quick note. We're not diving into the details surrounding Charlie Kirk's passing. You already know what happened, and that's not the focus of this video. So, let's talk about the moment that started it all. Erika Kirk, stepping into leadership at Turning Point USA almost immediately after Charlie's death. She began appearing in interviews, giving speeches, and standing on stages just weeks later. Some people praised her strength. Others questioned the timing. Everyone processes grief in their own way, but this transition sparked a lot of conversation. Then came the Turning Point USA event in Oxford. Erika was on stage introducing JD Vance, and she made a comment that left the audience stunned. She said she saw similarities between JD and her late husband, Charlie, less than 2 months after his passing. It was a moment that made people sit up, rewind the clip, and ask, what exactly is going on here? And that moment is where the story truly starts to shift.
Again, not seen her for a few hours, and she's accepting an award for her dear dead husband she was about to divorce. Now watch what she does here. She knows. Hey. She's put her hands on this lady's head, so you think that's normal for her. Because you're all saying it was weird when she did it to JD Vance. Now, you look foolish, see? She always does that. The gaslighting and script from her handlers is beyond belief. And they clearly think you're stupid. But look at the lady's face when Erika hugs her husband. Then she gives the usual performance, but wait, she's invested in a colorful handkerchief now for the non-existent tears. Who's actually buying into this psycho?
And then came the moment that shifted everything. When JD Vance walked onto the stage, Erika stepped forward and gave him a long, unusually close embrace. It wasn't a quick greeting. It wasn't a standard professional hug. It lasted long enough for the entire audience to react. JD's hands rested on her waist, and Erika's hand moved up toward his shoulder and hair. It immediately sparked questions online. And honestly, if you were Usha Vance sitting in that room watching it unfold, how would you feel? Because Usha's face said everything without a single word. Now, remember who Usha is. She and JD have been married for years. They have children together. She's incredibly accomplished, with a successful legal career and a deep cultural background rooted in her Hindu upbringing. Their marriage has always appeared strong in public. But recently, tension began to show when JD openly stated he wished Usha would convert to Christianity. That comment alone made headlines. Then came this hug, and suddenly, the public began connecting dots no one wanted to acknowledge before. This isn't just internet speculation anymore. These are real relationships, real families, and real consequences. And the behavior being exposed keeps raising new questions. So, let's break down exactly what happened next. After the hug went viral, Erika immediately realized she was facing major backlash. Across the internet, people questioned her closeness with a married man and the timing of it all, given she was still in the early stages of grieving her husband. So what did Erika do? She attempted to shift the narrative. At a recent ceremony, where she accepted an award on Charlie's behalf, She greeted another woman on stage with a hug that looked almost identical to the one she gave JD. Same closeness, same extended hold, same dramatic hand placement. It felt like a deliberate attempt to say, "See? This is just how I hug everyone." But viewers weren't convinced. Social media immediately picked up on one detail. The other woman looked noticeably uncomfortable. Her body language was stiff, unsure. It didn't look reciprocal. It looked performed. And then came the moment everyone is still talking about. Erika lifted a bright, colorful handkerchief to wipe away tears. Except there were no tears. The camera showed her face clearly. Not a single tear fell. People online noticed instantly. One TikTok user commented, "The scripter team is giving her feels unbelievable. It's like they assume no one is paying attention." And that's the problem. The internet is paying attention. Screenshots exist. Videos exist. Timelines exist. You can't convince people they didn't see what they saw. Now, let's talk about the timeline of Erika's public recovery, because it's one of the reasons this story exploded. September 10th, Charlie Kirk is tragically killed in front of hundreds of people. A devastating loss, one that would send most people into months, if not years, of emotional recovery. September 21st to 11 days later, Erika stands on stage at a memorial service. She delivers a deeply emotional speech about forgiveness. Her voice shakes. She says she forgives the man who took Charlie's life. It moved many people who watched. But then, just 7 days after that, everything abruptly changes. Erika appears on camera smiling, upbeat, and ready to push forward with Turning Point USA's content schedule. She announces they'll be adding 5 more podcast episodes per week. She even says, "Nothing is changing. But I want to preface, we're not awkward, we're not weird." The shift in tone was so sudden that people online didn't know what to make of it. For some, it felt like resilience. For others, it raised serious questions about what was really happening behind the scenes. Either way, the behavior didn't match the timeline, and that's why people are still talking about it today.
Question, what do you notice that's missing from this memorial poster? Oh, that's right, Charlie's face isn't even on it. Normally the person that you're honoring would be front and center, not the speakers. And then the story about the no exit wound. As a Christian, I get how they're trying to paint this out as some sort of miracle. Anyone who hunts knows that this is literally impossible. Yeah, we're just supposed to believe that he's a man of steel. Don't even get me started on this moment right here.
That young man. I forgive him.
Yeah, forgiveness for free publicity. Because right after this, she's the one getting all the attention, all the cash, and the power. Not to mention, she used to be an actress, and people tend to forget that little detail.
Not only our beauty, but in her beauty, that's what I'm looking for in a woman. So, how do you two ladies know each other?
And are we just supposed to sit here and forget this hand gesture? Why did she wait to do this while she was with the president? And people are saying this is the sign language for I love you. Last time I checked, Charlie wasn't deaf. Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not buying this whatsoever. And the more you look at it, the weirder it gets.
Listen, no one is claiming there's only one correct way to process loss. Grief looks different for everyone. But going from a grieving widow at the memorial service to an upbeat podcast host in less than a month, that didn't look like emotional healing. It looked like a rapid organizational pivot. A business transition, not a recovery. And speaking of the memorial service, people noticed something unusual about the event poster. In most memorials, the person being honored is the main image, front and center, the focus of the entire gathering. But in this case, Charlie's photo wasn't the highlight. Instead, the layout emphasized the speakers. It almost felt like the event was more about the program than the person they were remembering. Viewers couldn't help but feel something was off. The tone didn't match the gravity of what had happened. But while everyone online was busy analyzing Erika's public appearances, something much more personal was happening behind the scenes. JD Vance was watching her marriage get pulled into the spotlight in ways she never asked for. Right after that viral hug, a new clip surfaced, footage of JD and Usha walking through an airport together. And the tension between them was immediately noticeable. They weren't speaking, they weren't smiling, and their body language looked strained. It was the kind of silence that says more than words ever could. For Usha, this wasn't drama or gossip. This was her real life, playing out in front of millions of people. And it was clear that the viral moment had affected her deeply.
I am tremendously blessed and honored tonight to be able to introduce to you a very, very dear friend, his wife. And I see no one will ever replace my husband. No. But I do see some similarities of my husband in JD because he understands the fight that we're up against.
You could see everything in Usha's body language. She looked exhausted, frustrated, and completely overwhelmed by the situation. Her expression, her posture, everything suggested she was reaching her limit. This wasn't a couple calmly going through their day. This was a woman who had just watched the entire internet break down a moment between her husband and another woman, frame by frame. Imagine being in her position. Imagine watching millions of strangers debate your marriage, your relationship, your dignity. Anyone would struggle under that kind of pressure, yet Usha kept moving forward with remarkable composure. But the situation didn't stop there. After all the controversy, JD Vance made another public statement that only added more strain. On stage, in front of a huge audience, he mentioned that he hoped Usha would eventually convert to Christianity. He also commented that her family wasn't particularly religious, something that directly conflicted with what Usha herself has shared in the past. Usha has spoken openly about her parents, their Hindu faith, and how that belief system shaped their values and their character. To her, it was meaningful. It was part of her identity. Hearing JD portray it differently felt dismissive to many people who watched the clip. To outsiders, it sounded like yet another public moment where Usha's perspective was overshadowed, minimized, or rewritten. And coming right after the viral hug situation, it only made everything feel even heavier.
Woman of color, I don't care what happens to Usha Vance. I mean, we all saw it coming. A tale as old as time. An extremely educated and successful woman of color marries a white man. As per usual, a woman of color with an extremely promising career gives it all up to bear and raise his children. In case you aren't aware, Usha Vance is of Indian descent. Her parents are immigrants to California and raised her with Hindu faith. She went to Stanford University and met JD Vance when she was at Yale Law. As a registered Democrat voting for the Democratic Party for several years, in 2022 she decided to switch teams and register as a Republican. This woman went to Stanford and to Yale Law, only to be disrespected on stage and asked to completely convert her religion, her belief, and her entire identity as a Hindu Indian woman to go ahead and somehow move towards Christianity. I mean, whatever happened to unconditional love and loving your spouse no matter what? Now, maybe I'm a little too conservative and a prude for these conservative evangelical Christians, but I've never hugged my guy friends where it's pelvis to pelvis. I don't even think I've ever held any of the guys I've dated this close. Now, the only time that my pelvis touches that of a man is when I'm straddling him and I'm about to smack.
Think about the timing for a moment. Your husband has just been pulled into a viral controversy involving another woman. The internet is dissecting every clip, every angle, every gesture. And instead of publicly reassuring his wife or setting boundaries, JD makes a comment on stage wishing she would change her religion to match his. For many viewers, it came across as incredibly insensitive. So when people ask why Usha has decided to distance herself from Erika, well, it's not hard to understand. But this is where things take a very unexpected turn. Recently, Lara Trump went on TV and made a bold prediction. After Donald Trump's term ends, JD Vance will run for president in 2028. She even suggested he could lead for 8 years. Suddenly, JD being positioned as a future presidential candidate became part of the public conversation. Now look at Erika Kirk's public presence since Charlie's passing. She's been visible at nearly every major conservative event, giving interviews, appearing on panels, stepping deeper into leadership at Turning Point USA. She has embraced a very specific public image, one that many have described as the idealized version of conservative female leadership. And then came that moment at the Oxford event, where she introduced JD and said she saw similarities between him and her late husband. It struck people as unusual. And online, that unusual moment sparked a wave of speculation. Some users began connecting dots, right or wrong, and sharing theories. One person wrote, JD Vance will divorce his wife and remarry Erika Kirk before running in 2028. Another said, he'll claim religious differences and start fresh with someone who fits the image he wants. Again, these were online theories, not facts. But the internet picked them up and ran with them. Then people started bringing up something called Pauline privilege, an old Catholic teaching that allows a non-sacramental marriage to end if one spouse becomes Christian and the other does not. Commentators pointed out that JD is Catholic, while Usho is not, and speculated on how that could play into political narratives. These ideas spread quickly, not because they were proven, but because they added fuel to the drama already unfolding. To be clear, none of this means these theories are true. But they show what happens when public moments, strained body language, and political predictions all collide at the same time. And while viewers were busy analyzing body language and timelines, Candace Owens shifted the conversation somewhere else entirely, into questions about what happened on the day Charlie died. She began examining inconsistencies she believed she saw in the available footage and statements. One of her questions centered on why Erika thanked first responders at the memorial. Candace noted that in the public videos circulating online, responders weren't visible. So she asked, if no one saw first responders on scene, who was she thanking? She wasn't making an accusation. She was pointing out what she believed was a discrepancy and asking the audience to think critically. Then Candace discussed another clip she found online, footage of an unidentified person adjusting a chair and removing a camera shortly after the incident. She questioned why someone would move anything at a potential crime scene. Again, she didn't present this as fact, but as something viewers should look at and consider. She also commented on the behavior of Charlie's staff in the videos. One example was his chief of staff appearing calm as he walked away from the scene. Some commentators, including Jimmy Dore, said it looked unusual. But again, these were observations, not conclusions. Meanwhile, Erika addressed the circulating theories in a Fox News interview, trying to put the rumors to rest. She urged the public not to jump to conclusions, emphasizing that the situation was tragic and emotional for everyone involved.
Other theories swirling around about Charlie's assassination.
Right.
How does that make you feel?
When everything happened, my phone died. It became a black hole. I just didn't turn it on for weeks on end. I've intentionally insulated myself because I need to guard my heart and I need to be there for my kids and I need to be there for Turning Point. And what I've realized through all of this is that everyone grieves differently. Everyone is trying to figure out, and I don't blame them, how does this happen? How does somebody become so radicalized where they can justify this in their own head? We just lost one of the greatest voices of our generation. Why? How? What's behind it? Like, everyone's trying to process this, and I respect that. But where my heart is just asking for some grace is for the ones who were there that day. They have to relive that every single day. He didn't die in a car accident. He didn't die from cancer. He was assassinated. And the difference between this and previous assassinations in this country is there was no social media. There was no AI. I can tell you how many fake images are out there of all of this. And again, my only request is that just please pray and consider and think about whatever you put online, because it's going to impact his kids in the future. I don't want my kids to go on the internet one day when they're older and see things that just, we're all trying to process this in their own way. And I appreciate that, but just some grace would be nice.
So I think it's a gracious answer. And I think it's a gracious request to, assert first and foremost that people are doing this because they care and they care about Charlie. And also this was a traumatic event that the entire world experienced. And also the reason why the internet is investigating is because the feds aren't. And not only are they not investigating, they're telling some pretty obvious lies, right? Number one being that he was shot by a 30-06 and stopped the bullet when in a normal circumstance, it would have decapitated him. Like a 30-06 will decapitate someone. And because they've been so ridiculous and then gaslighting us by being like, you're dishonoring Charlie's legacy, people are digging their feet in the ground because it's just disrupts us spiritually to watch something like that and then be told like nothing to see.
During a recent interview, Erika asked the public to stop digging for answers. She said people should show grace, trust the officials, and accept that there's nothing being hidden. But Candace Owens responded with a very different message. She argued that the only reason the internet is investigating is because authorities aren't asking enough questions themselves. And whether you agree with her or not, she touched on something many people have been feeling. There are still a lot of confusing details in the official narrative. Online discussions have pointed out inconsistencies, gaps, and unanswered questions. People aren't claiming to know the truth. They're asking why the information presented so far feels incomplete. So when Erika tells viewers to stop asking questions, it struck many as unusual. Most people imagine that if their spouse died under sudden or tragic circumstances, they would be demanding clarity, transparency, and a thorough investigation. That's the emotional disconnect people online keep talking about. But at the center of all this noise, speculation, and controversy, there's someone who didn't ask to be dragged into any of it. JD Vance. Usha gave up a high-powered legal career to support her husband's political rise. She's raised their children, navigated intense public scrutiny, and faced criticism from people who judged her simply for her background. And now she's watching her husband make public comments about her religion and get pulled into viral moments with another woman who fits a very specific political image. Reports online say Usha has begun confronting people close to JD. She stopped staying silent. And honestly, many viewers think she has every right to speak up. One TikTok creator, a woman of color, summed it up powerfully. This is a tale as old as time. A highly educated woman of color supports a white man's career, raises his kids, sacrifices her own ambitions, and then gets replaced. People on social media have even expressed genuine concern for Usha. One user wrote a dramatic, dark humor comment predicting a mysterious illness headline. Obviously, that is speculation, nothing more, but it shows just how worried people are about the way Usha is being treated publicly. Because at the end of the day, this situation isn't just about Erika's strange public behavior or online theories about politics. It's about a woman who seems to be getting overshadowed, minimized, and publicly disrespected while millions of people watch it unfold in real time. Whether you follow politics or not, a lot of viewers agree. Usha deserves compassion, support, and respect. So now I want to hear from you. Do you think Erika's actions have been strategic or just misunderstood? Is Usha right to distance herself? And what do you think Candace Owens will uncover next? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.